Hello and welcome to my new channel, Homeros World. There is also an accompanying website, homeros.world. So, what's this about? Well, this is about paleogeography. I'm a doctor in physical geography, and since the 1990s I have taken an interest in studying the European paleogeography. What was the landscape? Behind me here you see southern Sweden, which was covered by more than a kilometer of ice at the Ice Age, and then it melted away and left this landscape we see here. But what about the people? Well, through archaeology we've been able to find out some information about the people who came here as hunter-gatherers and then agriculture, etc. But it's quite limited what we can find out from archaeology, because very little remains. What remains are things like stone, metal that hasn't been reused because the most valuable metal was likely to be reused. So, and sometimes some organic matter that was preserved in box, like we have out here, which can preserve material because there are anoxic conditions. But stories only tend to be propagated in mythology or in written word. And we don't have much of this. So when I took an interest in the prehistory in terms of what happened with the people, who were the people here? Because let me tell you, when I grew up, we had a Bronze Age tomb just behind the house. And it had been plundered, so it was left open. Once, as a kid, I went down. I lay down to see what would it be like to lie in a tomb. And I looked up and I fell asleep. And I was thinking there in the tomb, I wonder who was buried here. When I woke up, I was disoriented. I didn't know where I was. I woke up, and now, decades, more than half a century later, I'm here to tell you that I now know, virtually, who was buried in that tomb. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. When I started to look at this in the 1990s, I came across a book by an Italian named Felice Vinci, Homer in the Baltic. He gave me this preprint. I studied it in great detail, and he basically, the hypothesis is that Homer, who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? Or Homeros in Greek, in ancient Greek, Homeros. And why Homeros? Well, he's the oldest author who has written about European history. So of course we go to look to him for information. And Vinci had come up with the conclusion that the country he was describing, the geography Homeros was describing, was in the north, not in the Mediterranean world. So he went further and came up with an idea of where these different places mentioned in the Iliad could have been in the Baltic area or in Scandinavia and around the Baltic Sea. Here's a map from this book. So I think he has a compelling case for it being in the north. And then the hypothesis of Vinci is that the people later migrated to Greece and took these stories with them. Now, he identified tentatively Ithaka as Lye in Denmark. And I went there at the right time of year to see if it could match. And I came to the very, very firm conclusion immediately that that could not have been Ithaka for a couple of reasons. First, Ithaka was not suitable for horses, and Lye is extremely suitable for horses. And second, Ithaka was slippery in the fall, and Lye is the opposite. You get stuck in the mud. So that was ruled out. And the second thing was he identified Troy as a place in Finland, and I looked at the map there and I honestly can't find any compelling reason to think that that was Troy. So I started studying this, and the first thing I did was to come up with another hypothesis of where Ithaca was. And it didn't take me long to come up with an hypothesis. However, it has taken me 27 years to prove that, to test that, and to my own satisfaction come to the conclusion that yes, that's what it is. And well, basically, I now have it all laid down. I have it ready in a geographical information system, and I'm going to write a book about this and publish results little by little in this channel. So please subscribe. When I start publishing, first I will do background, but when I have sufficient size of channel, subscribers and views, I will start to put information out here. Well, just a little PS. When I did study this, I came across the writings of Plato, who mentioned Atlantis. He's the only original source for Atlantis. And I published that in 2004, and this book is available on Amazon in Sweden, UK, Ireland, and the US. So you can buy it. This was just a little precursor, because I see this as a little side note. It's not the main thing. But what I will publish now will eventually come back and connect to this. So my conclusion is that I was right in 2004. So this is a tremendous, mind-blowing new result that I will be publishing here. And on the website, homeros.world, I will also be putting up map information. There will be a forum to discuss, and I hope to be able to make some videos and virtual reality and perhaps a computer game, so that you can get inside and see what it was like back then. Because even though the site is still there today, it doesn't look the same. There have been changes in the physical geography, and there have been changes by people, building, destroying, reorganizing. So in order to understand what it was like, one has to look in the virtual reality of what it was like back then. And also, due to these findings I've done, I can also say a lot about how it was, why they did what they did, where they were exactly, what their economy was, what was going on, what was the reason for war and peace back then, because it's very different from what people think today. As I said, archaeology is just scratching on the surface. They can never imagine what actually happened. And speaking of that, 2 years ago I was kidnapped by the ELN narco guerrilla in the border area between Colombia and Venezuela. And thanks to the time I spent with them, I now have a keener understanding of the economy in that kind of situation, where there is no rule of law, where there are no nation states who control it. Because the fact is that Colombia does not control that area. No country controls it. And by understanding how it is to live in that circumstance, I have been better equipped to understand the people of the Iliad. So please subscribe and stay in touch, and go to the website homeros.world also. It's being set up now. It might still not work, the forum, when you log in, but it's coming, little by little. Thank you, and sign off for now.